Over the last few years, I've gained quite the interest in old media that I used to enjoy as a kid, from books to TV shows to movies to even games, the latter of which being the most interesting for me personally. Growing up, me and my siblings all had Kindle Fire 7s that we would use to play a bunch of mobile games, with some of the most classic being Beat the Boss, Angry Granny Run, Subway Surfers, Dan the Man, those old escape room games, Pooh, Temple Run, Hungry Shark Evolution, Cut the Rope, the Toca Boca games, Pixel Blood Online, and one of the greatest FPSs of all time, Shucking Pixel Combat Multiplayer. If you know, you shucking know. That shit was goated. And then of course we have one more. One of, if not the most played game me and my siblings would play together of all time, even beating games like Roblox and Minecraft. That, of course, being Pixel Gun 3D. Pixel Gun 3D was one of the most absolutely riveting and fun experiences I had in my childhood, especially when my siblings would play with me. It was a game we could all play together and still have fun due to all of us being at the same skill level. Pixel Gun 3D in its heyday, back in 2014 to 2016, was a different breed, an experience to behold, something truly special. The game was some of the most fun I've ever had on a mobile device to this day, and is one of my fondest memories I have with my siblings. We would play for hours, all day, and even sometimes into the night. Even when we were alone, we would still play Pixel Gun. It was something truly special to us, but eventually, like every craze, we would eventually move on, especially me. See, during the age of 2014 to 2016, Pixel Gun 3D might have been at its best, but it's also when the downfall started to occur. Constant balance changes that completely destroyed certain guns while also making others completely busted, the constant removals of maps, much beloved by the community, and the uptick of disgustingly greedy microtransactions. It was quite an interesting thing to see. This once beloved game quickly went downhill with people turning on it in packs, and after 2017, none of us really even played the game anymore. We had forgotten about it and moved on to the next thing. From 2018 to 2024, Pixel Gun 3D was simply a vague memory that would be whispered from our lips every once in a blue moon. However, one day, on a whim, I decided to look something up. For a long while, I had always thought a PC port of Pixel Gun would be quite interesting, so I looked up whether or not a PC port had come out, and lo and behold, I came across the Steam page for Pixel Gun 3D PC Edition, and from there, things only went downhill. Before we actually get into the PC port itself, let's go a little bit back to when Pixel Gun first came out. More specifically, what even is Pixel Gun 3D? For those who don't know, Pixel Gun 3D, usually shortened down to just Pixel Gun, is a multiplayer FPS game for mobile. While it wasn't the first FPS for mobile, it was definitely the most popular by far, with constant new updates, new weapons, new maps, new balance changes every few days. This is what kept Pixel Gun 3D from going stale, and let me tell you, the guns and maps back in the day and let me tell you, the guns and maps back in the old days were amazing. They were well designed, they were fun to fight on, and eventually even new game modes would be added, keeping the cycle fresh. And if you didn't have anyone to play with, you could always simply play the story mode, a single player side mode that allowed you to collect gems and coins and new guns as well. This whole system of gems and coins back in the day worked pretty well. After every game successfully won, or lost in some cases, you would be rewarded with gems and coins that you could use to buy more powerful guns that would give you the advantage in the next rounds. It was a really fun game back in the day, and was one of the only games that we as children were actually pretty good at, to the point where I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was pretty cracked at. And then at some point, the developers decided to go down the more greedier route, with microtransactions becoming more pricey, and from that point on, things only got worse. From greedy choices to misjudgment, a whole string of bad decisions led to what I would say is the temporary catastrophic downfall of Pixel Gun 3D, going from millions of active users per day to simply a few thousand, and even in rare cases, a few hundred. You see, saying this game fell off would be the colossal understatement of the ages. Pixel Gun 3D went from one of the most beloved and populated mobile games to one of the most shamed and deserted ones, all due to a few greedy choices and missteps. All stemming from the developers not knowing what players wanted anymore, paired with their ever-growing greed. Which then leads me back to the PC port. On April 2nd, 2024, Pixel Gun 3D PC Edition would release on Steam. Now, this without a doubt revived the game for quite some time, for even a few years even, but as the game released, one thing became disgustingly obvious. This game is not good, like, Not at all, not in the shocking slightest. It seems like the developers hadn't changed one bit. The prices are still sky high, progression is a shocking joke, and the balancing is some of the worst I've seen in any FPSs, so much so they would put early TF2 to shame. When it first came out, I was rather excited. Well, I couldn't play it at first, in fact I couldn't play it until 2 years later, but hey, hype was still at a high. And then the very next day I forgot about it. That was until I saw a certain video. On June 3rd, 2024, a YouTuber named Cheesable would upload a video called Pixel Gun is so bad it's funny. And let me tell you, the title of the video was not lying in the slightest. Not only did the game suck, but it was also so bad, it was funny. Get it? Like the title of the video? Jokes aside, this video was very entertaining and was my first look at Pixel Gun 3D's PC port. And man, was I not impressed at all. Fast forwarding to 2026, during the production of the Shucks video, I discovered that video once more, and it was this clip in particular that piqued my intrigue.
The guy fucking Eric Cartman.
So I decided to bite the bullet. What the hell, I was bored, and I now had the hardware required to play Pixel Gun. So I decided to, well, play Pixel Gun. Yeah, no shit.
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you, give me $200.
And my experience was interesting to say the least. I put a few hours in, and then left it for a few days. Then I finally decided to come up with this video you're watching right now.
What's up, it's Moist Critical here today to spit absolute truth about Pixel Gun 3D. This game sunks donkey balls. That's all I gotta say about Pixel ton of shit 3Dicks. Anyway, go buy some G Fuel slut.
So what's my opinion on Pixel Gun 3D's PC port? It shuckin' sucks. Like, really sucks. It's a long far cry. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. That's so stupid. That's a dumb fucking sentence. Get the fuck out of here, Fly! It's a far cry from the olden days of 2014 through 2016. There are several problems with the game that are immediately obvious just playing your first few rounds. First off, the graphics ain't great. They're pretty outdated. This is not much of a surprise as this game has looked practically the same throughout its entire history, spanning all the way back to 2013. In general, the best way to describe Pixel Gun 3D is far past its expiration date. For the time between 2014 to 2018, the game was novel. As it moved into the 2020s, the novelty quickly wore off. But anyway, what about the game itself? Well, it's the mixed bag to end all mixed bags. For the most part, you can have some rather good fun in this game. However, that doesn't mean it's all good. A lot of the times you'll be put up against stupid bullshit, whether it be the unbalanced guns, the unbalanced teams, or the shitty map selection. Nothing in this game is truly taken for granted, and at the end of the day, it's not worth the sum of its parts. And you're far better off just playing the countless other first-person shooters released on PC. But hey, let's give this game a fair shot. What exactly is so bad about Pixel Gun 3D? Well, let's start off with one of the biggest problems the game has. It's heavily pay to win. Pay to win has always had this negative connotation about it, this smelly, stinky aura, and that's for a very good reason. Being able to pay your way through a game, or paying to make a game easier, is kinda shocking stupid and unfair, especially in a PvP setting. Think about the last game you played that had some pay to win features, whether it be leveling you up faster, better guns, or what have you. Take that example and make it 10 times worse, and now you have Pixel Gun 3D. This game is the definition of pay to win. The more money you put into it, the better guns you can get, and the more unkillable you become. Comparing the base guns and base armor to the most expensive weapons and armor is night and day. With the base guns and base armor, you do barely any damage, and you get killed by most guns in one hit. Compare this to the most expensive weapons and armor, where you can one-shot people and become unkillable. And it's not even to like a small degree, you have such a great advantage over the other players if you pay a pretty hefty price. This doesn't help with the fact that most matches in Pixel Gun 3D are very one-sided. If one team is winning throughout most of the duration of the match, it's very unlikely the other team will come back from it. So it's very common to get your shit kicked in by little Billy who stole mommy's credit card to become God himself, while also being unable to change the outcome of the game to be more in your favor. This is mostly due to your team constantly getting killed like a bunch of shocking idiots. Unlike with other FPSs, Pixel Gun 3D is far more player independent. Sure, you can still tag team the enemy, but most of the time the other players are off doing their own thing, and as such, if they get killed like idiots, there's nothing you can really do about it. And guess what? That kill is now a point for the enemy team, resulting in loss. While it sounds like I'm being a little harsh on the other players, it's not entirely their fault, mostly due to how broken some of the weapons are in this game. A good chunk of the later level weapons in Pixelgun 3D always one-shot other players, regardless of armor or other factors like cosmetics. Take one of the biggest and egregious examples of this, the Big Fatality Gun, otherwise known as the Shucking BFG, a clear nod to Doom. When fully charged, the BFG will almost always one-shot the other team. Doesn't matter if they just spawned in, or if they're in a suit of armor. One hit from the BFG, you're going right back to spawn. Believe it or not, this used to be even worse. Earlier players might remember the original version of the prototype. Oh my god, you just had to be there. The original prototype was one of the most overpowered weapons in the game. If the other team had a player with the prototype, or god forbid, multiple prototypes, that was an instant L for your team. Especially on sniper heavy maps like Sniper Fort and Paradise Resort. And one of the absolute worst things about the prototype was that it could shoot through walls, through shucking walls, while also one-shotting any enemy from any distance. The original prototype terrorized servers for a good while before finally being nerfed. Sure, there was a bunch of other overpowered weapons in the early days of Pixelgun, but none really were able to overcome the legacy of the original prototype. It was so shocking annoying. But eventually, all overpowered weapons in the game would get their nerfs. However, that doesn't mean the game is free of broken weapons. There are some weapons that can still shoot through walls and still instantly kill, gifting you and your team an insane advantage. The balancing in this game would make early TF2 look like a masterpiece. I'm pretty sure I already used that joke, but whatever, shuck off. However, nowadays, the new powerful weapons are often tied to one of the other awful aspects of Pixelgun 3D, the gambling. Gambling has been a big part of gaming since the mid-2010s, mostly due to TF2, but we're not going to talk about that right now. And it's been a controversial feature since practically its inception, and Pixelgun 3D by far has one of the worst examples of it I've ever seen. In the current version of Pixelgun 3D, there are always at least 6 different ways for you to gamble, all of them almost always costing real life money or keys, which are pretty hard to come by unless you spend lots of money. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm pretty sure most of the gambling in Pixelgun 3D is rigged. You never get anything good unless, again, you spend lots amounts of money. One of the worst aspects about the gambling in this game is the fact that a lot of guns are locked behind it. One of the new features added a few years ago was the ability to craft weapons collecting certain parts from these lottery wheels and chests. Problem is, you need so many parts and the chests give you so little that it would take you so long to get these weapons. And some of them are just timed exclusive, so if you're not playing every day grinding out each of these weapons for parts, you're never going to get them. So much content is locked behind gambling to the point where if you don't spend a grand amount of money, you'll never get those items. If you want to get anywhere in this game, you have to spend lots of money. I know this because for this video, I decided to run a little experiment. I recorded some footage of me without buying anything, simply using the materials that I naturally got from playing the game, compared to me buying some shit from the store using real life money. And the results were pretty damning. With 2 purchases alone, I was able to upgrade my character to the point where I became a dominating MVP in most matches I played. And when factoring in a little gambling, this game is always one-sided. If you pay large amounts of money, you get such an incredible advantage compared to the other players that it's quite frankly shocking predatory. This is made even worse by the fact that most of the players who play Pixelgun 3D are kids. Speaking of kids, one of the biggest aspects that holds Pixelgun 3D back is the fact that it's an FPS for kids, and as such, most of the player base are kids, which takes away a huge chunk of the difficulty, even if they have some of the more powerful weapons. That's because kids don't really have the experiences of other FPS games. As someone who has 2,000 hours in TF2, I'm pretty shucking cracked at this game, and that's because I have the experiences in other FPS games compared to these kids who are probably playing on mobile. Because of that, I have a huge advantage. Hilariously so. Most kids don't know how to strafe around both the map and damage, bait enemies either around corners or into following you, weaving behind corners and walls, or even having one of the most important things in FPS, positioning. Hell, a lot of them don't even know how to aim, which is all stuff I learned playing TF2. Due to this fact, even if you're a slightly more advanced player, there are times where you can go on to destroy matches single-handedly, and it's not very hard to do so. There's been so many times where I've gone on multiple killing sprees in one game. It's even more devastating in deathmatch mode, where it's PvP entirely instead of being team versus team, it becomes laughably easy. And that's not me bragging about destroying a bunch of kids in a more than a decade old game, it's just that because I have experiences playing other FPS games, my experience in Pixelgun 3D is far more different compared to the average player. However, there's also some more specific things you can do in this game, like rocket jumping, another thing I know how to do from TF2. While it's not as useful as in that game, you can still do it to do pretty cool shit. I won't lie, you can do some pretty cool shit in this game. Just like most other first-person shooters, Pixelgun 3D has a fair share of funny and wacky moments, with obviously one of the best and most prestigious clip a person can get is a nutty shot on an enemy. So I have a bunch of clips of me hitting pretty stupid shots on other players, but that's not necessarily where the fun is. Again, being good at aiming isn't really that much of an advantage in this game because, well, most of the players can barely count to 10. What I'm more specifically talking about is all the little quirks that Pixelgun 3D has. Easily, my favorite thing to do in this entire game is the Smile Mine Kamikaze. It's a pretty simple setup. Hold the smiley mine out and run towards someone, then drop it at their feet, and boom, you instantly win that interaction. It's so stupidly effective for a number of reasons. One, the smile mine does a grand total of 300 damage when upgraded to a certain point, meaning it one-taps most players on direct hit. Two, the smiley mine takes only a few seconds to recharge. And three, it's so stupid, no one ever expects it. I have actually never seen this tactic be used before, not by any player, YouTuber, or even my siblings. It's so stupid, no one ever expects it. It's even funnier when you bait them by running away or going behind a corner. But just running into them works perfectly fine too. It's so mind-boggling stupid how easy it is to pull off, and players never see it coming because, again, how stupid it is. Why does this work? It works so effectively for me because, unlike other players, I play games in a stupid manner. I never play them to take them seriously. I always try to break them and try to have as much fun as I can. And without a doubt, the Smile Mine Kamikaze is definitely the funniest thing to do in this game. As much as I complain about how broken the weapons are, I still like having them, specifically the BFG. Just like I was talking about earlier, charging it up even halfway still one-shots most players, and it's so hilarious just to go on shucking sprees with this one gun. It's so powerful you don't have to use any other weapon, and it has an AoE effect. I'm not opposed to overpowered weapons in games, I'm just opposed to being put up against them. But when they're in my hands, shuck you, I love overpowered weapons. It's like random crits in TF2. I just love the feeling of a one-man army in FPS games, and because Pixelgun is so easy, I do get that feeling just way too often, to the point where it doesn't produce any dopamine. Of course, there are other things you can do in this game, like, again, rocket jumping, and the bonus accessories like the mechs and stuff do have some fun aspects, but the Smiley Mine Kamikaze will always be my favorite thing in this game. I'm honestly surprised that I didn't find out about this strategy earlier, because again, I've been playing Pixelgun since 2014. Oh boy, it was a different game back then. Which then leads me to our next topic, the game's deterioration. Old Pixelgun from 2014 to 2016 was something to behold. So many new maps, so many new weapons, so many new players. Every time you play the game, something fresh was there for you, waiting for you. Now all that's waiting for you when you boot up Pixelgun is a bunch of notifications and gambling, of course, trying to squeeze as much money out of you as possible. While microtransactions have been a part of Pixelgun for quite some time, they definitely weren't nearly as bad as they are now, and that goes for a lot of aspects in Pixelgun. Older Pixelgun was simply better, and this isn't nostalgia talking, it was simply better and funner. Sure, you still had to put up with a few shitty maps, but at the end of the day, it was some real fun. And in my opinion, the biggest part of that being the wide selection of maps. The maps in old Pixelgun were phenomenal. I'm surprised not many of them have been ported over to other games like the Source Engine. We had so many great maps like Ant's Life, Nuclear City, Paradise Resort, Scary Pizzeria, the best map in the game, Christmas Dinner, Parkour City, D-Day, the second best map in the game, Toy Factory, Walking Fortresses, and of course, White House. Some of these maps were legitimately good FPS maps. They were fun to fight on, they had wide open areas while also having some claustrophobic areas to fight in. All of them had everything you would want in a good FPS map, especially two of my favorites, Christmas Dinner and Toy Factory. One of the biggest problems I had with the original maps is that a lot of them were locked behind certain game modes. Yes, Pixelgun has different game modes besides PvP, and most of them were actually pretty stolen. Well, I guess I wouldn't say stolen, more inspired by other games. No, they were definitely stolen. Pixelgun 3D has quite a few game modes, if you would believe it. Team Fight, Deathmatch, Co-op Survival, Flag Capture, Point Capture, Deadly Games, Duel, Block Crash, Free Play, Battle Royale, and Escort. All of these game modes were based off of or stolen from other games, with some of the prominent examples with Escort being TF2's Payload, and Battle Royale of course being Fortnite. Even some of the minor game modes like Melee only come from games like TF2, more specifically the Group Keep. They even have similar maps to the Group Keep with Knife Party and 2 Castles. They even have their own version of 2 Fort with Sniper Fort. A lot of maps in Pixel Gun 3D are based off of other things, some more obvious than others. Like Walk-in Fortresses is literally just 2 AT-ATs from Star Wars, or Scary Pizzeria being Shucking Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Some of the maps also just have the source material in the name, like Silent School and Slender Forest. Also, going back to the topic of game mode, the best game mode was Co-op Survival, with Scary Pizzeria being the best map hands down, by far, just putting that out there. There's also another game mode that I didn't touch up upon because it's not really a different game mode, it's just a different game entirely, that being the campaign. I don't want to talk about the campaign for too long because quite frankly there's not anything really to talk about. You just kill enemies. Also, it sucks. The campaign is just co-op survival but single player. The campaign is also so unbelievably boring and monotonous to get through that I didn't even finish it for this video. I just recorded a little bit of footage so I had it for this part of the video. The campaign is what Pixel Gun 3D was originally in 2013 before it got its multiplayer update. One of the biggest flaws I think the campaign has is the fact that if you have some of the stronger weapons in the game, it completely invalidates all the enemies, even on the later maps. I will give credit to the campaign for having some pretty cool maps, even though they're based on other properties, but whatever. Honestly, I think the campaign is just really bad. It's not written well, it's not fun, you can't skip any of the cutscenes, the progression is mind-numbingly slow. If you want a good video on the campaign, go watch Pixel Gun's Campaign is Really Odd, or The Strange Lore of Pixel Gun 3D. Alrighty, before I end this video, I want to give a personal anecdote. Now, don't take my word as gospel. This is me retelling events as I remember them. Hell, I could just be misremembering or misunderstand the situation. But on April 2nd, 2024, the release date of Pixel Gun 3D's PC port, something strange happened with one of the devs, or a few of them. Again, I don't remember. But it goes a little something like this. On Steam, when uploading a game to the platform, you have the ability to schedule it beforehand, which gives players an approximate time code for when the game will be uploaded. Pixel Gun was one of those games that had the time code, and once the timer ran out, the game didn't release. Quite some time had passed before I decided to say, shuck it, and let's see what's happening in the Discord server. And upon joining, I'm greeted with one of the devs kind of being a dickhead about everyone about the release of the game. Now, again, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they said something along the lines of, the game won't release until you behave. Again, I had just joined the server, so I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if people were rioting in the streets. I had no clue, nor did I really care. But to me, that was something strange for a developer to do. Practically hold the game hostage until people bend the knee. Again, I could just be misunderstanding the situation, but I'm pretty sure they were just flexing their power or something. I don't know. If you were in the server at the time and know what I'm talking about, please let me know, because quite frankly, as the years have passed, I became more interested than I was when I initially saw what was happening. So, yeah. With that all being said, that's about time we end this video. Jesus Christ, I'm so tired. While I've been rather harsh to Pixel Gun 3D throughout the entirety of the video, there's no other way of describing it really. It's not very good. Sure, you can still have your fun every once in a while, but it's far past its expiration date, and it's nothing like it used to be. Call it greed, call it misjudgment, call it the new devs, whatever you want to call it, it's simply not the same anymore, nor will it ever be. The player base is dwindling, the devs are losing interest, and the well is drying up. While I won't lie and say I didn't have any fun with the game while recording footage for this video, it's definitely not a game that I'm going to come back to anytime soon, or probably ever. I had my fun, but now it's time to put it away permanently. Would I recommend you play Pixel Gun 3D? Not really. Kind of. I definitely don't recommend you put any type of money into this game because, well, quite frankly, it's not deserving of it. And honestly, if you're going to play Pixel Gun 3D, I say stick to free play as it's probably the most fun you can get out of this game, while also not spending a single dime. If you're interested, it's free on Steam, but like, again, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Not bad, just not worth your time. And that just pretty much sums up my feelings about Pixel Gun 3D as a whole. It's not worth your time at all. If this PC port came out years ago, at its prime in 2014 to 2016, there's a good chance Pixel Gun 3D could have been a staple of the FPS genre, but that's not what happened, and now it's only known as that one childhood staple that was ruined by greed and misjudgment. Truly, one of the biggest falls from grace. What a kick in the nuts. Fuck you, Pixel Gun. And with that all being said, I think it's about time we actually end this video. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.